And again, it's interesting that Commander Hatfield, former astronaut, brilliant astronaut, has actually said that if he'd been on the space station, he heard that he'd actually have a bit of concern. They want to know exactly what this is to make sure it is nothing serious.
The perennial question of is anybody out there might have been answered over the weekend. Strange noises have been heard on the Starliner, the American-backed spacecraft that is currently up at the International Space Station. It's heading back down to Earth this coming Friday, but its astronauts are staying up in the ISS until February because the Starliner isn't safe for them to travel in it. Now, this noise is a kind of pinging sound. Let's have a listen. This is one of the astronauts, Butch Wilmore, astronaut's name, sending the sound to his colleagues back at base here on Earth, and you hear the Earth person first.
At negative, Butch, we did not hear anything. All right, Butch, that one came through. It was kind of like a pulsing noise, almost like a sonar ping.
Yeah, I'll do it one more time, and I'll let y'all scratch your heads and see if you can figure out what's going on. Here we go.
Well, I don't know why I couldn't hear it first time round. As you say, incredibly loud to me. Andrew Lound is the man that we turn to when we need some answers on space. Andrew, what do you think this is?
Hello. Yes, it is interesting. It's not the first time there's been noises heard on spacecraft. Apollo had a similar event take place when they were going around the moon. They heard what they called a wooing sound, and therefore they had to try and identify what that was. And this could be something of a very similar case. It's coming through the speaker inside the spacecraft. And that's significant because that gives you an idea where the signal is originating. It's coming through the electronics. And it could well be due to a connection. The spacecraft, which is attached to the International Space Station, and of course, there's electronics attached to it as well and connectors. And it's been up there a lot longer than we anticipated, and therefore there could be slight movement, which is causing a slight disconnection. It could be causing a vibration, and that's coming through the speaker system, the electronic system, and making this. It's a very regular sound. It'd be nice to see the wave pattern of this to actually analyze it. So that could be a thing. And on the Apollo mission, which I said, that was actually because the lunar module was attached to the command module, and the whirring sound they get was the communications between the two were making a noise through the system. And your experts there, your technical staff there will know you get intermittent noise through the speaker system due to all sorts of things happening and interference. It is an interesting one. It's a pinging sound. I mean, it sounded very much more bassy because, of course, he was attaching a microphone in front of a speaker. But it does sound very interesting to see what it is. They do need to solve out what it is because the spacecraft has been perfectly fine from that point of view for a while. It has other issues with it, of course, but it's been up there for a duration. Something has now happened which is causing this noise, so you do need to bottom it out to find out what is going on. It's not likely to be something serious, but you can't really tell. I mean, we're just guessing really at the moment. But I would venture from past experience, it looks like a connection issue between the main spacecraft and the space station, which is now changing because it's been up there so long, which could be causing a problem, unless of course some of the electronics are failing.
Andrew, is there a slim possibility it could be alien life?
No, absolutely not. No, this you got to look at the hardware and the electronics of the spacecraft. I think for this, there's no one's trying to communicate, because if it was going to communicate, it wouldn't just simply come through the speaker. It'd be coming through a broad band range of signals, which would be coming through other radio equipment as well. So that's a nice idea, and nobody is banging on the outside of the spacecraft trying to get in either, because some people trying to go bang bang trying to get in. It is an artifact noise of some kind, and again, it's interesting that Commander Hatfield, former astronaut, brilliant astronaut, has actually said that if he'd been on the space station, he heard that he'd actually have a bit of concern. They want to know exactly what this is to make sure it is nothing serious. So, but no, unfortunately, not aliens this time.
Right. I love the very, very definitive answer to that. What's the future for Starliner, though, Andrew? Because it's not been the most successful flight, has it?
No, but it was a test flight, and that's the reason why you've got these two highly experienced. Butch, well, great now, as you said, Butch. She sounds like an astronaut, doesn't he? Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams. She's incredibly experienced astronaut, and that's why those two test pilots were placed on board it to test out the systems on board the spacecraft to see how it functions in space. And of course, it's had a problem with a helium leak. It's also had a problem with its thrusters, and the thrusters are the more serious issue, because when the spacecraft eventually separates from the space station, it will, of course, detach. And this is the piece then that comes back down with the astronauts to Earth. And if the thrusters aren't working properly, this might end up at the wrong angle and would kill the astronauts. Hence, they're not bringing the astronauts back with it. There needs to be an awful lot of work done to the Boeing by Boeing to get this spacecraft up and standard for a human rating again, because it isn't at the moment.
Yeah.
They're technically in a competition, of course, with SpaceX, with Dragon, which is very successful. And it'll be a Dragon that'll bring the astronauts back down in February.
You mentioned SpaceX there, which is Elon Musk backed, isn't it? I wonder what your thoughts are about the gap between those kind of ambitions from those kind of men with regard to space travel and the reality that we will all ever be able to do it. Are they selling us something that is simply not achievable?
I don't think so, no. I think certainly Elon Musk is one of the great visionaries. He's an interesting character in many other ways, but he is a great visionary. And it's interesting that when he was a child, he was very similar to me in his outlook, that he saw people going into space. So can I do that one day? I mean, when I was growing up, there was a Ladybird book. Some people might remember it. I mean, at the back page was two children looking through a curtained window at the moon. And I thought that's where we're going to be at some time in the future. And he's had the attitude, well, we've got commercial flight, general commercial flight. Why can't we have commercial space flight? And we are moving in that direction. And the development of the spacecraft he's doing is absolutely breathtaking. And it's also the speed he's developed. It is quite fantastic. So yes, I think the day is coming at some point where it will eventually be. I think certainly if we're having this conversation in a century's time, in 100 years' time, we will actually be looking at this as a fascinating period in history, because space travel will be quite common for everybody.
Well, if we are having this conversation in a century's time, Andrew, some remarkable developments would have been made in modern medicine, or you've got something in your tea that I don't have. But it's lovely to talk to you.
I'm always hopeful. I'm always hopeful.
You and me both. Always lovely to talk to you, Andrew. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Andrew Lound is very much our space expert on this programme.
He is. He's a great guest, and I think I remember that Ladybird book myself.
From when the failure came in, and we landed within 200 meters. That's like between here and that building, between the point. There's no other spacecraft in the world that can do that. It can do it automatically. It can do it in manual mode, and on a fail-safe mode, we can still hit the. Yeah. Oh, let's see here. Was it James? Is that right? Scott. I'm sorry. Scott. Same number 11.